Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. I had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation, welcome to the show. It's Friday, TGIF, the end of another week, and we've got a lot of stories for you guys. So we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna talk about a new ad from Midas Touch, which is pretty good. We'll talk about that. Hard-hitting ads, man. You gotta love it. And I actually like this group a little bit more than I do Lincoln Project. Because Lincoln Project is a bunch of Republicans, Bush era Republicans, and so there's some little bit of I don't know, hypocrisy going on here, and so fun times. All right, so we'll talk about that. Then we've got Kamala wants to touch America's meat, according to of course Mike Pence. That's I'm sorry, that's Vice President
Mike Pounds.
Yeah. Apparently, she wants to
tighten up my meat.
I don't know. That's what I hear. All right. Anyway, fun times. Drank too much coffee. All right. Oh, hey, welcome to the show, Bruce. This is my first time catching you live, but love your takes. Thank you. Appreciate that. It did. Thank you. We were lucky enough to be able to afford to get it fixed. And so thank you. I appreciate that. Again, I appreciate all of you guys and gals that have asked about this and have wished my wife well. I truly have the best audience in the world. You're amazing. Let's see. We're also going to talk about the post office, of course. Pretty disturbing stuff going on with the post office. Not good. We also have Donald Trump going birther on Kamala Harris. That's really bad. And then I want to go into the Alex Morse story. So I haven't really gone into it all that much. I haven't really talked about this Alex Morse story, but it's pretty disastrous because here you have the Democratic Party trying to smear a gay candidate in Massachusetts to protect an incumbent. So I want to talk about that because that's a really, really important story. And there are lots of developments, and it's just like it's a big story to get through. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of nuance in it. So we'll talk about that story. All right. That said, it's going to be a day, and let me I just want to give you a little bit of an anecdote of what I've also been dealing with today. So I've been seeing this pop up all over social media. There's a 5-year-old child, I believe it was North Carolina, that was shot and killed by a black man. And so, I mean, you guys know what's going to happen, right? Already has. Conservative outrage, right? Now, of course, everybody should be outraged. The fact that a young child was brutally murdered. Totally. I'm upset about that. The whole the whole country is in mourning, right? What's gross, though, other than of course somebody shooting a child, because seriously, um, is the reaction by conservatives that have immediately politicized the issue by trying to make a comparison between that and Black Lives Matter. So that's frustrating to me because it's like, no, you're using this innocent child's death as a political prop to say, oh my God, the media is so corrupt. I cannot believe that they would not report on this, that they would bury this story. While Black Lives Matter, they keep talking about that and hyping up a criminal and a thug instead of this poor child. It's not at all what happened. The reason that there are marches and outrage, and that's the other thing they complain about is, well, there's no marches. Where are the marches for justice? Oh, well, it could be because the man was immediately arrested and faces trial and will be facing trial. They found him, arrested him, justice will be served. Okay. And so I understand, like, I fail to understand what this has to do with the George Floyd protests, which, by the way, were because George Floyd was not getting justice. African Americans shot by police, and not just African Americans. Although, by the way, also you have stories. For example, Daniel Shaver, murdered by a police officer, did not get justice for quite some time, and so it is really interesting how they don't talk about that. But again, there's a reason that they don't do that, is because they want to turn it into a political narrative specifically against Black Lives Matter. And so that's the thing, right? Again, there's no need, right, for like the protests against, media, police, whatever, in this case, because there hasn't been a miscarriage of justice. It's really, as one of you points out, Sam says they really care about kids. That's why they want to send them back to school without protection. Also interesting is whenever we bring up the fact that there are millions, not millions, sorry, when there are school shootings, like where hundreds of kids get shot and killed in schools, they say, oh, nothing we can do about it. It's the price of freedom. Right. Okay. Yes, James, smears against Morse are disgusting. Look into the details before you unendorse someone, please. Yeah, we're going to look at that. So we're going to look at the allegations. Again, there's a lot of moving parts here. The Intercept has actually done a pretty great breakdown of this. And so that's really what I want to talk about, is some of the newest developments, but also to walk you through the details of the story. All right. Anyway, let's move on. Let's start out with, of course, the ad here from Midas Touch. It's pretty good. The group Midas Touch is out with a brand new ad that really puts into perspective Donald Trump's failures in dealing with the coronavirus crisis. Take a look.
This is their new hoax. 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero. A lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat. One day it's like a miracle, it will disappear.
The hope is that by July, the country's really rocking again.
Slow the testing down, please.
And because we do more tests, we have more cases. It is what it is. A pandemic, which is disappearing. It's going to disappear.
All right, so not bad, right? So that's using his own words. I always enjoy when they do that because it's, let's just say it's a target-rich environment. It is what it is. It is what it is. Oh, okay, 160,000. I'm sorry, 165,000 Americans are dead, but it is what it is. Huh? Wow. But I thought it was a great use of sports here. So I know some of you might be into the sports, which I'm not, which is obvious. But look, the reason that's relevant is because there actually is, as a result of coronavirus, going to be a lot less sports. And for example, college football is, for the most part, getting canceled. Okay. Now on Sunday, Excuse me. On Sunday, ESPN first reported that Big Ten presidents, following a meeting on Saturday, were ready to cancel the fall sport. Ugh. Excuse me. Let me just take a second here for that. All right, sorry about that. I said a cough. No, it's not COVID. So, all right. Anyway, so look, that's pretty relevant, right? There's going to be a lot less college football this season. In fact, on Sunday, ESPN first reported that Big Ten presidents, following a meeting on Saturday, were ready to cancel the fall sports season, and they wanted to gauge whether commissioners and university presidents and chancellors from the other Power Five conferences, the ACC, Big 12, Pac 12, and SEC, would fall in line. They ended up doing so, with many of them saying that they would hope to come back in the spring. Pac 12, as I said, also did so. Officials with the ACC and SEC have indicated that they plan to proceed with their seasons this fall, but we're not entirely sure what's going to happen, right? So at best, there's going to be some teams, maybe some games, maybe. But even so, it looks like there might be some people that are bored this fall as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, which has killed over 165,000 Americans with no sign of slowing down. And so actually, Dr. Fauci is actually saying that we're on track to having a terrible fall. Not good. Not good at all, right? It's only going to get worse. You know why? It's because we have no national strategy for COVID-19. While, of course, the rest of the world has at least minimized deaths and transmissions, and yet, countries are still having outbreaks. For example, New Zealand is having a new outbreak despite previously eliminating the virus from the island. So understand, even if you get rid of it, you still have to continue social distancing and wearing masks if you want to make sure to protect everyone and to basically stay, to have the coronavirus stay away. And so, I mean, that's what they're doing. What are we doing? Nothing. Not at all. Nothing. And so, here's the interesting thing, right? This kind of shows that, regardless of the president, our pastimes are going to be ruined by this virus, by the pandemic. That sucks. That sucks a lot. Now, if we had a competent president, we wouldn't be pushing people into dying. We would have, lower deaths and lower new cases. We'd have stronger contact tracing. We would have, of course, healthcare for everybody who does get sick and all that. And so, unfortunately, we don't have a competent government. Instead, they're saying, "Oh, reopen the schools. What's the worst that could happen? Send everybody back to work. Oh, what's the worst that could happen? Let's make sure that people have to vote in person if they want to vote in the election. What's the worst that could happen? I don't know. Coronavirus? I'm just saying." So, look, the rest of the world seems to get it. And even though there are spikes in other places, the United States still leads in new cases and deaths. So it looks like we cannot go back to normal. And it looks kind of like until there's a vaccine, the world cannot go back to normal. Unfortunately, as I said, our leadership wants to die for Wall Street. So, yeah. And by the way, I know there's always to talk about, what about the businesses? What about the small businesses? They want to open. Actually, there are a lot of small business owners that want to wait to reopen until it's safe for them and their customers, right? But these same people will be forced to reopen because there's no income support, no support from the federal government. And look, Mitch McConnell just went home. The Senate just went home for another month. Like, they just decided that they were going to fuck off until September 8th. And that's it. We got no COVID bill, right? We got no money for the states. We got no money for the post office. We got no stimulus checks. We've got no expanded unemployment benefits. They just decided, we can't come to a deal. We can't agree, so we're just going to leave. See you guys later. Oh, yeah. You're just going to retire to your second home, right? And then go beg donors for money on the phone. Wow. Yeah. Real leadership, guys. Real leadership. So that's what's going on here. Now, as far as the ad is concerned, another thing that it does point out that it kind of gives perspective to is that it kind of shows what the death toll is like. All right. Now, a lot of people tend to not be able to imagine 165,000 people dead. Like they can't fathom it and understand, right? That it is pretty hard for a person to conceptualize that much death. And it gets even harder as the numbers get bigger. But unfortunately, they will get bigger. So when you look at a stadium, for example, that stadium in Ohio, I believe holds about 104,000 people. So 165,000, that's more than just that one studio. Packed, full of dead bodies. And so understand, like when you see that, representation really does put it in perspective. Okay. And again, the numbers will get bigger because, as I said before, we have no plan. Every state is kind of on their own. We've got no leadership at the national level, and because the federal government has all but abandoned them. And of course, unfortunately for states, they don't have the money to continue to help their constituents, even if they want to, be able to battle this. And so this is a terrible situation. And then you have the looming housing crisis as well. Up to 28 million people are in danger of losing their homes in the middle of a pandemic. So this is what's going on in this country. And really, when you think about it, this, the effectiveness of this ad in really putting in things into perspective, I think they do a pretty good job. So nice work, Midas Touch. All right. Yeah, I don't think QAnon is trying to silence me. But interesting theory, guys. All right. Let's move on. We've got Mike Pence, our favorite. Mike Pence wants to make sure that nobody touches America's meat.
In fact, the California senator that he named as his running mate this week said during her short campaign for president that Americans needed to be, and I quote, educated about the effect of our eating habits on our environment. Senator Kamala Harris said she would change the dietary guidelines of this country to reduce the amount of red meat Americans can eat. Well, I've got some red meat for you. We're not going to let Joe Biden and Kamala Harris cut America's meat.
All right. Okay. All right. I've got a lot to say about this. I'm a child. Okay. Let's get this out of the way. I am very sure Mother will not allow Mike Pence to let Kamala Harris get near his meat. Okay. That's not something Mother would approve of. I'm just saying. Wouldn't happen. And so let me just add.
I like my meat tight.
Okay. Anyway, let's get to a serious point, right? Because this is ridiculous. Now, look, Mike Pence, or like I like to call him,
Mike Pounds.
Okay. Anyway, had to get that out of the way too. He was referring to comments made by Kamala Harris back during the debates. And so this was I'm sorry, it wasn't debates. It was a climate change panel back in 2019. And I'm showing this to you because I want you to get some context, because what Mike Pence said was wrong. Oh, I know, like, shocker, Mike Pence said something that's dishonest, right? So let me give you her words, and we'll do a little comparison. Take a look.
As a nation, we actually have to have a real priority at the highest level of government around what we eat and in terms of healthy eating, because we have a problem in America. And we can talk about all that we are now, the subject of this conversation. We can talk about the amount of sugar in everything. We could talk about soda. We could go on and on. So the answer is yes. But I'll also say this. The balance that we have to strike here, frankly, is about what government can and should do around creating incentives and then banning certain behaviors. I mean, just to be very honest with you, I love cheeseburgers from time to time, right? I mean, I just do. And I think that, but there has to be also what we do in terms of creating incentives that we will eat in a healthy way, that we will encourage moderation, and that we will be educated about the effect of our eating habits on our environment. And we have to do a much better job of that, and the government has to do a much better job of that.
All right, so look, what she said, none of that was really all that controversial. But wait, oh my goodness, she said the B word, she said ban, but hold on. Overall message, though, moderation. Okay, hey, look, that makes sense. I like hamburgers, I like steaks, right? But if I eat them every day, I will die. Okay, I don't really want to do that. That's a bad idea. I know some people would be ecstatic, right? So again, I like moderation, and encouraging moderation is a good thing. Nothing controversial at all. But again, as I pointed out, she used the ban. She used the word B, the B word, the ban, right? So of course, if you're a smooth-brain conservative, you would immediately jump on it and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe she wants to ban meat. They're gonna cut America's meat." No, you can't cut America's meat.
Tighten up my meat. I like my meat tight.
Yeah, it's not even remotely what she said, though, because her position is, again, not that. Just doing some guidelines and encouraging moderation, not making people eat less meat, but encouraging people to eat less meat. And so now, look, on other things, and she did mention sugar, right? I'm in favor of reducing sugar in foods. I mean, for example, right now, we pump our foods full of corn syrup, right? High fructose corn syrup. Why? It's because we subsidize the shit out of corn. Okay, corn syrup has been shown to make people obese, which of course drives up healthcare for everybody and makes us generally really unhealthy. And so it kind of strikes me as funny as when like a right winger, when like a conspiracy theorist, right, goes on about, oh, I'm going to tell you about that fluoride in the water, right? Oh man, that fluoride is killing us. And he's like drinking a soda and smoking a cigar while eating a 3-ounce steak. Like, it doesn't make any sense, right? Do you understand what irony means? I'm just saying, like, do you understand? And look, for me personally, I started a diet, right? I'm down about 13 pounds. In a little bit of a humble brag, I actually feel better, but the thing that's really helped me the most was to realize how many calories are actually in the foods that I eat, right? How much sugars. For example, like, okay, a while back, I love McDonald's mochas, right? I also love burgers and I love steaks, right? A little bit of a problem. You can't eat those all at once, all right? I find out when I look at how much calories were in those mochas, because I'd start my day with a couple of large ones, right, to get ready for the show, and that's 1,000 calories a day, 1,000 calories in just mocha. Not to mention, look, I used to drink sugary sodas, and so when you look at the stuff that you're putting in your body that you were consuming, like, okay, it helps to know what you're putting in there so that maybe you can make better decisions. Okay? Again, most people, like for me, I didn't realize just how much I was putting in my body. And also that information wasn't exactly 100% handy as well. I know there's the thing on the, on nutrition facts, right? But who reads those? Not a lot of people. But that's the thing, right? More information, more accurate information, and, maybe stuff to incentivize better choices. Okay. And so the thing is, Kamala Harris wants to do that, right? Michelle Obama also tried to do that, and conservatives flipped their shit. I mean, these people are like, I thought this was America, as they're like pounding slider after slider into their mouth, right? Which, by the way, even under these rules, these guidelines, these suggestions, you could still do, but at least it might come with a warning label like, hey, if you keep eating this, you will probably die. Just saying. And after all, look, it kind of feels like trying to save people's lives is somehow a bad thing, even if it's conservative lives, right? I mean, especially when you talk about an approach with incentives and disincentives for different foods. I mean, we actually do already have incentives and disincentives, right? For example, I mean, right now, we have an incentive to buy cheap, sugary junk food, right? Cheap, processed, corn-heavy, sugar-laden food and drinks, right? That's an incentive because of the subsidization of corn. So that isn't a market incentive. And so while you have that cheap processed food that is worse for you and leads to, diabetes and heart problems and health problems down the road and all that stuff, which of course increases healthcare costs. And we're in a market system where, a lot of people can't afford insulin and things like that because it's massively marked up. I mean, all that stuff, right? And so that's prioritized. We have incentives to eat that, but we don't subsidize vegetables. We don't subsidize healthy alternatives, right? And so we end up having higher prices for these, or in some places, food deserts where this stuff isn't available, healthier options. And so people get stuck with the unhealthy subsidized crap. That's a problem. That is a big problem. And so you got to keep that in mind, right? When we're talking about, changing the guidelines and encouraging better eating, this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about banning freaking hamburgers. You still have a hamburger, but maybe you shouldn't have like 5 in a row because that's bad for you. And I guess you could still do it as an American if you want, but generally we'll try to discourage you and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't have those, like double, triple cheese laden. And it actually sounds kind of fucking delicious right now, but cheese laden bacon burgers with, fried onions and all that stuff. Oh God, this sounds delicious. I'm going to have to eat something after this, but generally I'll try to avoid those unless, like I've properly planned to eat that many calories and can work them up, and work them off and things like that. But so anyway, that's all I had to say. All right. So yeah, let's change stories here. I'm gonna kind of move it around and go. Let's see. For the next one here, actually, that's not what I was looking for. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And we'll go to another Kamala Harris story here. Since we're on it already, and then we'll get to the post office story after the break. So, let's see. No organic options available in food deserts either. Right, that's right. That's right. With Kamala Harris being Joe Biden's new vice presidential pick, Donald Trump is reviving an old tactic he used against President Obama. And that tactic, of course, is racism. Because, honestly, did you not see that coming? Really? Well, okay, anyway. So now a reporter asked Donald Trump at a Thursday news conference for his thoughts about some claims about Kamala Harris not being eligible to become president or vice president, to serve in office, at least in that higher office, because they claim that she's not an American citizen. Ridiculous, right? But okay. Well, let's go to that question here. Trump responded by saying, I just heard that. I heard it today that she doesn't meet the requirements. By the way, the lawyer that wrote the piece, and there was a piece in Newsweek, and this is where this conservative, narrative is coming from. It was published by Newsweek, and they said the lawyer that wrote that piece is highly qualified, very talented lawyer. He's also wrong. I have no idea if that's right. I would have assumed the Democrats would have checked that out before she gets chosen to run for vice president, but that's very serious. You're saying that she doesn't qualify because she wasn't born in this country. Now, the reporter, of course, said, oh, no, she was born in this country, but opponents say that her parents did not receive their permanent residency at that time. Okay, so that's the gist of it. I didn't have the video, obviously, but okay. So that's what he's talking about. So he's saying, oh, the person that wrote it's a very good lawyer. There's people are saying that Kamala Harris just can't run as vice president because she's not an American. No. Same thing that they used against Barack Obama. You guys remember the birth certificate, right? Any minute now, his investigators in Hawaii are going to come up with the birth certificate, okay? They're going to find that thing, and they're going to say, aha, knew it, knew it. Obama, invalid. Dude, Obama's been out of office for quite some time. And also, he's an American citizen as well. I mean, ridiculous, right? It's a complete crock of garbage. Look, in reality, we know there's no investigation. It was a racist dog whistle, and now he's bringing it back because it worked last time. That's what it was. The argument promoted in Newsweek and by right-wing groups is that Harris, again, is not a natural-born citizen, as defined by the 14th Amendment, because her parents, an economist who emigrated from Jamaica and a cancer researcher who immigrated from India, were not. But you know what? It sounds like those are the kinds of people we want in the country, right? Educated, people that are educated, hardworking. Yeah, I thought we wanted those people in the country, Donald Trump. Oh, no, but of course they're brown, so we can't have them, right? Hey, that's what Trump supporters say. I can't have them. Can't have them. So now, here's the thing. If you are born here in America, on American soil, even to non-American non-American citizen parents, then you are a citizen. That's the 14th Amendment. Literally, it's in the Constitution. That said, when has Donald Trump ever cared about the Constitution? He literally does not know any amendment other than the first and second. If it's past the second, you've lost him already, right? If you're trying to explain. And so he doesn't care, probably doesn't understand. But here's the thing. Conservatives have been wanting to get rid of the 14th Amendment. Why? Because, you've heard the argument before. Anchor babies. Why do we got to take care of people born in the United States? If they were from other countries, why do they got to be citizens? That's what they say. Well, you know what? If they did that, none of us would be an American. Unless, of course, they had some sort of arbitrary cutoff point, which you would have to have. But that would be a completely ridiculous proposition. I mean, it's so stupid. Also, incredibly racist. But that's, of course, understand that's what birtherism is all about. And it is funny that they're going to go to this, right? It's a gross attack. It's a garbage attack. It's disgusting. There's a lot of things that you could disagree with Kamala Harris for, but you're going to attack her on this? What is wrong with you? Again, it's I mean, look at the attacks that they've levied against her so far. For one, it's hey, not born here. Ridiculous. Radical left. Ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. I wish Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were half as leftist as the right wing paints them, right? I wish she were a pawn of the radical Bernie Sanders far left movement. That would be fantastic. Everything that we've seen says that she will govern, and her and Biden will be a very centrist ticket, which is exactly what the Democratic establishment had planned from the beginning. They were never going to let somebody like Bernie Sanders just run away with the election without fighting them tooth and nail, and that's what they did. Okay, and so they also, interestingly enough, I showed you a video yesterday of Kellyanne Conway trying to make the argument that, well, I cannot believe Kamala Harris went after people for smoking marijuana. Dude, have you seen your own administration? Do you remember the time when Jeff Sessions basically said, we're going to go after the states that have legalized marijuana? We don't care. We're going to ignore states' rights, and we're going to go after people who smoke weed anyway. Again, do you understand not only irony, but also hypocrisy, right? You're going to try to go after Kamala Harris from the left on weed while being to the right of her on weed, or at least in the same lane? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, they also call her phony, which, look, she's a politician. So I think most politicians are phony. And, you might disagree with me on that. But that said, I'm not here to argue for or against Kamala Harris. And I'm certainly not going to be a Kamala stan, right? I'm just going to say that these attacks on her are false and gross and bullshit, because they are, I mean, look, that's all the right wing has, is just complete and utter racist bullshit, like the birther movement. And unfortunately, here we go. We got to fight against it. Yep. All right. I'm going to take a break. We're going to come back. More stuff. We have the post office, and then we've got the Alex Morse stuff. So we're going to talk about that. Read some super chats as well. And stay right here, right? Also, like and share the stream if you haven't already. And we'll be back in a minute on The Nation.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Mike Pence.
Why, you're getting nervous, man.
I like my meat tight.
All right. Back to the show. Welcome back, I should say. All right. So, got some super chats. First, that I want to read out. Sarchik says Nixon, the president who became a crook. Donald Trump, the crook who became president. Oh, that's pretty clever. I like that. Dango Bangles has a couple and says, we New Yorkers got this covered. Pizza? No. Pizza. No, problem solved. No beef needed. Plus, there are many different types of pizza that don't need cow cheese. I've never had a non-cow cheese pizza. And so that's interesting. That is interesting. All right. And also, apparently described the cowboy burger, which sounds delicious. So, all right. Anyway, I want to thank some channel members here, Mike Huey and Ardessa, patrons Shakira Thomas and Marsha Diem. So, thank you for supporting us on Patreon and through the channel membership program. You can join and become a member by hitting the join button below. Fundraiser, we are at $360 out of $2,500, trying to raise money for a brand new spanking awesome streaming machine, so I can use it for years and years and not have to upgrade it, which would be really nice and help the show a lot. So if you can donate to that, the link, of course, is in the description of the video. If you want to help out, if you're able to help out as well, of course. All right. Anyway, let's move on here. Let's go to the post office. Let's just change that because that is disturbing my audience. There we go. NYC Pizza is the best in the world. I actually would prefer it over Chicago. Let's be honest. I kind of like being able to hold and fold the slice, a little bit of the thin crust. Although I'll have a thicker crust too. I mean, I'm not too picky on the crust type. I like it all, except for Chicago. I just never really was into that. All right, now let's get to it. It appears Republicans' plan to make mail-in voting a little bit more difficult is starting to happen. Now, U.S. Postal Service workers say that mail voting sorting machines are now being taken apart and removed from distribution facilities across the United States, raising concerns about the ability to handle a surge in mail-in ballots for the general election in November. So now, look, already I don't think our system could have handled millions of mail-in ballots. Now they're taking things apart to make it not able to handle mail-in ballots. Not good. Now, the details, of course, from Business Insider, and they said that at least 19 mail sorting machines, which can process up to 35,000 pieces of mail per hour, have been removed with no explanation, according to postal workers, right? And an internal letter published by the USPS in June outlines a plan to remove hundreds of mail sorting machines from operation by the end of the year. Now, why would you want to do that? I mean, that's an interesting question, right? Well, for the answer to that, you may want to ask Postmaster General Louis DeJoy, who happens to be a Donald Trump donor, a major Trump donor, by the way. And I'll give you the details on that later. But now postal workers and elected officials have said the changes made by DeJoy dismantle the Postal Service and could have devastating effects in the election, when many people, of course, are expected to vote by mail due to coronavirus. So now Kimberly Carroll, the president of the Iowa Postal Workers Union, confirmed that machines were being removed, told NPR in an interview earlier this week that DeJoy's policies were now affecting the way that we do business and not allowing us to deliver every piece every day. And so far, the Postal Service has warned a lot of 46 states, that their mail could be late. Some of the mail-in ballots could not arrive on time to be counted And they had the warning, especially for Washington and Pennsylvania, saying that, well, the deadlines for, turning in these mail-in ballots are a little tight for its delivery standards. Now, wait, why can't these states just relax their standards, right? Maybe allow more of a grace period for these, these mail-in ballots due to coronavirus. Well, look, I don't know the details on whether or not they could do that. I would assume they could because it is their, own state elections. But then again, it is also the general election, so I don't know what they could do. But certainly not a good idea, not a good thing that's happening here. It could mean that your vote doesn't count. Now, in a letter to DeJoy last week, Democratic congressional leaders Pelosi and Schumer said that the removal of mail sorting machines and other cost-cutting measures threaten the timely delivery of mail, which, again, it doesn't just do mail-in ballots. People's medicine comes by mail. Checks come by mail. A lot of different things come by mail. And so, you make it so that the mail doesn't come on time, and you've got problems. You have people possibly dying or losing their homes, right? Not being able to get paid on time, which, at the very least causes delay in paying, for example, utilities or rent, which leads to late fees, which of course harms individuals and being able to go and spend money in the markets. And so it can cause a lot of problems with late checks. I know I've experienced late checks before. And when you're poor, you depend on that check coming in time. You really do. And so, I mean, disastrous. And then, of course, you add in absentee ballots not getting there in time. Then you also just got disenfranchised. Now, in a statement to Business Insider, however, a USPS representative, Dave Partenheimer, says, oh, no, this is fine. Oh, we do this all the time. He said the reports on it being used to sabotage the election are erroneous. Quote, Postal Service routinely moves equipment around its network as necessary to match changing mail and package volumes. Package volume is up, but mail volume continues to decline. Adapting our processing infrastructure to the current volumes will ensure more efficient, cost-effective operations and better service for our customers. However, look, there's some, a little bit of truth to that, right? Sure. But here's the thing. You don't dismantle this, the ability to sort mail when you're expecting millions of additional, tens of millions possibly, of additional ballots to be sent through the mail. I mean, it's almost just like, I guess it reminds me of like elections, right? Where there's an expected, people are expecting a larger outcome, right, than normal. And they still say, you know what we should do? We're expecting a larger outcome of people coming out to vote. So let's just cut polling places. What are you doing? Well, of course, they know what they're doing. They do know what they're doing. And that means, and what they're doing is trying to disenfranchise the vote. And so there's a plan, at least according to, when you look at DeJoy and Donald Trump, and according to what I've seen Donald Trump say himself, Trump does not like mail-in ballots, despite actually requesting an absentee ballot for him and Melania. He thinks that, no, if other people get to use it, well, that's a disadvantage to me. And look, he's right. When there are more people vote, Republicans tend to lose. That's why you have voter suppression in the first place. That's why people remove polling stations from minority neighborhoods. Why they throw out absentee ballots. Why they remove people from voter rolls, even though they've been voting in that same place or, for years. And now why they're attacking voting during a pandemic. They don't want you to vote. And of course, they justify it by saying, well, voting is just full of fraud, waste, and abuse, right? Well, okay, let's look at the amounts of voter fraud, right? Between 0.00004% to 0.0009%. That's how much voter fraud goes on in America. Out of the millions and millions of votes, very infinitesimally small numbers. Funny enough, when it comes to coronavirus, right? They're like, why should we have to wear masks and social distance? We have such a small amount, such a tiny amount of people dying from coronavirus. Did you know that the death rate is, or the survival rate is over 99%? Huh? Why should we wear masks? But on, on voting, like, no, can't do vote by mail. No. Look at all the fraud. Tons and tons. Such a tiny amount, but still, it's tons. Too much. We must protect our voting system. Weird how they do that. Weird. Yeah. My goodness. Let's add on to that, right? Donald Trump's voter fraud commission found zero credible evidence of widespread voter fraud. But it doesn't matter. Facts don't matter. If Trump thinks he's going to lose because of mail-in ballots, then he's going to try to destroy the ability for people to mail in ballots. And that's what they're doing, by the way. Trump openly admitted that this is why he's blocking funding for the post office so that they cannot do mail-in voting. Take a look.
They want $3.5 billion for the mail-in votes. Okay, universal mail-in ballots. $3.5 trillion. They want $25 billion for the post office. Now, they need that money in order to have the post office work so it can take all of these millions and millions of ballots. Now, in the meantime, they aren't getting there. By the way, those are just two items. But if they don't get those two items, that means you can't have universal mail-in voting.
It's right there. Hey, look, if you don't have the money, then I'm blocking you. Then I can't do mail-in voting. Well, that sucks for you guys. Look, he is interfering in an election in order to boost his chances, and he's using his lackey that he appointed to take over the post office as postmaster general in order to do so. And look, it's been really effective. And by the way, before I get to that, right, what DeJoy has actually done at the post office, I just want to remind you that it's a 91% approval rating. It is the most popular government program ever conceived. Just think about that for a minute, okay? So now, especially when you hear these numbers or you hear this information, right? DeJoy is a major Trump donor. Sorry. He has overseen sweeping changes at the USPS, slashing its budget amid the COVID-19 pandemic, and freezing hiring since he took control of the agency back in May. Postal workers told Motherboard that while it wasn't unusual for mail sorting machines to be deactivated or moved, the timing coincided with Trump's push to destabilize the USPS before the election. Carol told Motherboard, quote, "When you take out one of the machines, it takes away our ability to respond to unforeseen things that may happen." And then, by the way, speaking of the timing, right? We have the post office now picking up mailboxes. Well, not mailboxes, but what do we call these things? Where anybody can, drop off mail collection sites. They're picking them up all over Portland and in other places, New York City as well. And so, that is rather interesting. I mean, if it wasn't for the timing, right, and the fact that Donald Trump is out there basically taking apart the Postal Service, well, then I wouldn't be freaking out so much about this, right? But this seems rather strange. I mean, getting rid of these sorting machines and then getting rid of the drop boxes, the collection boxes, it really makes you worry that this really is an effort to destroy vote by mail. And you can't just look at this evidence and be like, oh, no, I don't see it at all. No, there is something going on, and it should be very, very concerning for everyone involved. Okay. Okay. So there's a pretty contentious campaign going on in Massachusetts. Actually, there's a couple. But one of them has gained national attention after some allegations of inappropriate behavior had surfaced. Now, this is according to The Intercept. The 31-year-old candidate, Alex Morse, who's a progressive, it's been alleged that he has made students feel uncomfortable by sending them messages through Instagram and as well as messages on Tinder, in addition to having sexual contact with some students at UMass Amherst, where he was previously a professor. Now, the allegation does not say that Morse had inappropriate relationships with students that he had taught, which, of course, would be a red flag, would be a problem, right? But rather had accused him of having relationships with other students. And then, sending them messages? Now, here's the thing, right? UMass, like most universities, bars relationships between students and faculty who have a supervisory or teaching relationship with the students. Morse was not alleged to have had any of those. And so other students, again, he's a pretty young guy. He's only 31 years old. Not every student that goes into college is like 18, 19, right? There are people in their mid-20s. There are people in their 30s that go to these colleges. And so, look, I don't see anything wrong with that, right? I don't see anything wrong as long as you don't have that power dynamic over your student, right? That you're not, having sex with your student and then being able to give them good grades because of it, okay? And again, that would be the problem. And so what he does is that he goes on Tinder and goes on Instagram, whatever, matches up with some people who happen to also go to school, okay? So what's the issue? I mean, so far there have been no complaints against Alex Morse, no official complaints with the college. And so if there aren't any complaints and if they're not breaking any rules, then what's the issue? Why are we hearing about this? Why do we care? Why do we care? Well, turns out that this is political, right? So, look, Morse has said, look, I reject any allegations of impropriety, and I think that this is a political hit job against me. So people are looking into the origin of a letter sent by UMass College Democrats. So now it turns out that we find out that the leader of the UMass College Democrats, or at least for some time until about April of 2020, was a fan of Morse's primary opponent, Richard Neal. Richard Neal is a very powerful Democrat. He serves on the Ways and Means Committee, and Alex Morse is challenging him for his seat. And so, again, people are looking into the letter sent by this person who apparently wants to use the situation. Well, I'm sorry, not the situation, but wants to get into politics by siding with Richard Neal, who seems to always have a little bit of a, I wouldn't say like relationship, because that sounds like it's wrong, but like he's always had a respect for Richard Neal and wanted to use his campaign to further get himself into politics. And so he had been open with his hopes for working for Neal in the future, right? So now, in order to back that up, I go to Claire Sheedy, right? So now Claire Sheedy is a student. She was active in the College Democrats chapter and knew this man. This man, of course, is, let's see, Timothy Ennis, right? Timothy Ennis, of course, went to a journalism class with Richard Neal. And so apparently he really liked Richard Neal and wanted to serve in his campaign. And so also he seemed to have a problem with Alex Morse and had talked to Sheedy and basically admitted while they were both working for the Buttigieg campaign that, quote, he spoke very highly of Mr. Neal. What he said to me is he wanted Neal to be his into politics and work his way up from there. But when it came to, of course, Morse, Ennis said that Morse socialized with students in a way that he was uncomfortable with, and that Morse had recently matched with a student on Tinder, and again felt very uncomfortable with that, right? Sheedy was like, okay, that's whatever. Who cares, right? That doesn't seem to be anything wrong with that, matching up with students, as long as it's not your student, right? As long as you don't have that power dynamic, as I explained, right? And so, okay, she didn't think about that until Ennis wrote a letter, right, on behalf of the rest of the college Democrats to the local college paper, which published an article based on this against Alex Morse. So that seems like a little bit of a problem, right? Because Ennis did not go and ask everybody, hey, should we write this letter on your behalf? What do you think? Now, Sheedy was a Morse supporter, is a Morse supporter. And so she's like, wait a minute. I don't agree with this letter. I don't think it's bad. I don't think what Morse did is inappropriate. Why would you basically write this on my behalf? I don't like this at all. Now, there's another person, Helena Middleton, who's also a sophomore and former member of the University of Massachusetts College Democrats, and said, look, I joined this group to meet people, meet fellow Democrats, of course, and I'm a supporter of Morse. And I would like to, support Alex Morse. I would like to recruit people to support Alex Morse. Whereas the campaign apparently would welcome that, right? But Ennis, who wanted to be part of Neil's campaign and ran the college Democrats, said, no, we're not going to help you, right? We're not going to, we're going to ignore basically calls to help Alex Morse, while of course sending out opportunities for Ed Markey. I like Ed Markey, but they're also sent out stuff for Joe Kennedy, right? So if you're sending out for both, that's fine. But it seems like as leader of the college Democrats, you should also send out ways to help Alex Morse if people are interested in that. And you're not doing that. You're not doing that at all. So she eventually, Middleton said that she eventually learned that a member of the group's leadership was a student in Neil's journalism course at the time, and said he made it very clear that he supported the election campaign and that he wanted to work for Neil. Middleton then left later on, several days ahead of the letter's publication, frustrated at the anti-Morse bias from leadership. Sheedy also left the chapter after the letter was published. The current president, Andrew Abramson, reached out to Middleton last week to apologize for joking about the Morse race in the college Democrats group chat. Ennis, by the way, ended up becoming Neil's chief strategist in April of 2020. And so there's also allegations from Morse that the college Democrats were favoring Neil's campaign because of donations. They requested a donation from Morse's campaign, being a small campaign that's not funded by, PACs or corporations, just relying on small donors. You're not going to have a lot of money. So Morse declined. Said, well, we can't. We just don't have the money to do so. However, other politicians did donate. And the president of the state chapter of the college Democrats later took to Twitter to applaud Neil for donating $1,000 to the Amherst chapter back in May. And Neil also posted a photo of his class, which Ennis, who has since locked his Twitter account, had liked. And so there is, a lot of, look, it seems like a conflict of interest, really, right? We're like, hey, I'm going to help out the candidate that I like, that I'm going to get a job in, and then I'm going to go after the person that I don't like, that it happens to be primarying the person that I want to work for. That seems a little strange to me, right? But now there's more, right? That's just stuff that we've already known for at least a couple of days. New story that's dropped on this. It appears that the college Democrats had also worked with the campaign to go after Alex Morse. So now they write, behind the scenes, the state party, despite, of course, trying to remain neutral or having their stated goal of remaining neutral in contested primaries, had been coordinating with the college Democrats of Massachusetts to launch the very allegations against Morse's campaign. So the state party is teaming up with the college Democrats to go after Alex Morse to protect Richard Neal. Now, this is according to 5 sources within the state party and connected to the CDMA. A review of messages between party leadership and CDMA leadership and call records obtained by The Intercept. The document showed that Massachusetts Democratic Party Executive Director Veronica Martinez and Chair Gus Bickford connected the students with attorneys. Among them was the powerful state party figure and attorney Jim Roosevelt, who worked with the college group on a letter alleging Morse behaved inappropriately. So, now The Intercept reported on Wednesday that at least 2 members of the UMass Amherst chapter had been planning in some form or another to leverage Morse's use of dating apps in the Pioneer Valley against him and in favor of his opponent in the primary, longtime incumbent influential House and Ways and Means Chair, Representative Richard Neal. On Thursday morning, in the wake of the revelation, Politico reported that Bickford was calling for an investigation to examine the conduct of college Democrats who levied the allegations against Morse. Quote, "They turned to the state party to help them. They thought they'd protect them, but instead the state party is trying to destroy them," one member of the Democratic State Committee told The Intercept. Martinez then reached out to CDMA members repeatedly by phone and text, at least late July up to and including Thursday, according to records. In text messages reviewed by The Intercept, Martinez takes an active role in directing the group on the strategy behind the letter before and after its release, including coaching on how to interact with the press. On Thursday, the college Democrats also posted a statement that apologized to Morse, adding, "We wrote the letter to Alex Morse's campaign on the advice of legal counsel," but they did not specify who that counsel was. But of course, that counsel was Jim Roosevelt, who happens to be a power broker within the state and national Democratic Party and contributed to Neal's campaign back both in 2008 and 2016, giving $1,000 and $500 respectively, according to FEC records. He has a history, by the way, of going against progressives, going against the Bernie Sanders wing of the party, of which Alex Morse is a part of. He's a progressive, and he's trying to unseat Richard Neal. In 2016, he chaired the DNC's Credentials Committee, rejecting Sanders' formal request to remove Barney Frank as the chair of the Rules Committee. Barney Frank, of course, is an establishment Democrat, and after the Vermont senator deemed the former lawmaker too hostile to the progressive agenda. A year later, Roosevelt publicly rebuffed the suggestion by Elizabeth Warren that members of the DNC had tilted the presidential playing field towards Hillary Clinton's campaign. A former CEO for the health insurance giant Tufts Health Plan, Roosevelt will once again co-chair the Credentials Committee at the DNC next week. Asked if anybody from the state party leadership ever reached out to him about concerns being expressed by the college Democrats, Morse said, "Never." So understand that this is a hit job. This is an establishment hit job against a progressive. Alex Morse did not act inappropriately. There are no actual complaints that he had done anything against the rules or wrong. Just because you may have a quote unquote creepy feeling from Alex, and doesn't mean that you should be basically, that you should not be able to run your campaign. And it's very, very clear that the state party is against Alex Morse and had helped in this to try to do this, this just gigantic hit job against a progressive in order to protect an incumbent. So that's what we have. And so understand that is the situation. It is a bombshell, a huge revelation that shows, once again, how state parties and how establishment incumbent Democrats will do anything to keep their seats against a progressive blue wave. Okay. All right. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going on the Nation Meet today. I do appreciate it. Felicia Alam with the super chat. Thank you very much. It's not much for the computer, but if everyone in that chat chipped in, if they can afford it, I'd be there in no time. Absolutely. Every little bit matters. And I do really appreciate that. Thank you for the donations. Thank you to all who've donated to the campaign or through the super chat. It is very, very welcome. I look forward to actually getting the funding for this and building the computer. I'll even do a video of me putting it together and swearing a lot. Because I do know how to build it, but I have big hands. I have the opposite of the Trump problem. I have big hands. And that cannot fit in small places. And so it's going to be a lot of fun watching me put this together. But I've put together several computers before, so it won't be too bad. Won't be too bad. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday for another show. Enjoy yourselves. In the meantime, try to stay away from too much politics if you're able to. And we'll see you here on Monday. Thank you. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you later.
Mike Pounds.
Please clap.
I like my meat tight. Tighten up my meat.
Tolerizer.
Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.